Pete Featherstone here, Hannah Howell here, Gus Sanders here, Cameron here, all present.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented.
Got a discussion on that real quick. When we shared up the agendas on Friday on the supplemental, we had one position on there. We received, people activity permit and paperwork to go to Mark Hines. So they added Mark Hines to the supplemental for volunteer for the musical, as well as volunteer assistant. So we want to make sure we have everything in place. So we didn't see that change in that.
Roll call.
I don't think we have any. I don't know. And then I had one. There's a separate sheet, approval of the supplemental rate certificate that's from the Miami County Tax. So they will like that approved, but for January 31st, we can buy it on it.
So where is that one? Oh, actually. Roll call.
Pete Featherstone? Yes. Gus Sanders?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
Hannah Howell?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, public comment. The Board of Education recognizes the value to governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of the community interest. The board offers public participation to members of the public in accordance with board policy 0169.1. Since this is a new year, just a few reminders, the sign-up sheet, you need to sign in order to present. I think everybody signed that. You need to be a resident of the district, especially since now we have recordings, please state your name. Each presenter is limited to 3 minutes, and the total amount of time for public comments gets capped at 30 minutes. Just so folks know, the board doesn't generally respond back during public comment. That's the standard. And so, keep that in mind. And also, because we're recording, we're not sure how well the audio is coming across for the recording. This is a bit of a test. And just ask that side conversations be kept to a minimum throughout the meeting. Just to ensure that the video is coming across clearly for those not here, and for respect for those in here as well. So, with that said, the first presenter is Angela Lewis. Right, so yeah, where you're comfortable. Right here is okay.
Members of the board, my name is Angela Lewis. I'm speaking tonight as a resident, a taxpayer, and on behalf of many in the community who care deeply about the integrity and excellence of this district and its students. First, I want to address transparency and compliance with Ohio Sunshine Law. Ohio Revised Code 121.22 is clear. The board may not make decisions outside of public view or use public meetings to simply ratify outcomes already reached. In December, the board entered executive session to discuss appointing a board member. The following day, candidates were contacted informed of the outcome. Emails and texts with board members were also exchanged affirming that decision. No discussion or decision occurred in open session, and no meetings were held between December 15th and tonight. Yet this evening's agenda lists a single news individual to take the oath of office, raising serious questions about whether tonight's vote is more than a ratification of an outcome already reached. That secret highlights concerns about compliance with Ohio Sunshine Law and undermines public trust. I'm also concerned about tonight's agenda item for appointing the treasurer as each board member's designee will require public records training. While permitted under law, given the recent procedural issues and legal exposure, board members themselves should take accountability for completing this training. It exists for a reason. Second, the district has not been transparent with the public about academic outcomes. Our elementary and junior high have experienced consistent declines in state reports for grading, and yet there's been no clear public acknowledgement and plan to address that. Focusing only on high school results is not sustainable when earlier grades continue to decline. Third, I'm concerned about legal awareness and oversight. During the discussion of the farmland lease in November, neither the board nor administration appeared to be aware of the requirements specifically laid out under Ohio Revised Code 5301.71. As a result, we believe that already renewed by operation of law before the board even voted, rendering that vote ineffective. This raises serious questions about checks, balances, and governance. The district's legal exposure also cannot be ignored. Multiple lawsuits have been lost or settled, and a federal case is now pending. Those lawsuits allege failures to follow required IPC and related procedures. None of this is personal, it's structural. That leadership, transparency, and responsibility, and many in this community believe this long-standing tradition of excellence at my needs is being eroded. Our students deserve schools that are improving and not declining. Our staff deserve leadership that addresses problems directly. Our taxpayers deserve decisions made and open. I urge this board to recommit to transparency and informed government. Our children are dependent on you.
How the most recent board position was filled. And I understand under board policy, you had two options in filling this position. First, you could have honored the will of the community by looking at the most recent election results. Or second, you could wipe the slate clean and evaluate the 5 candidates who apply. I want to be very clear. I have intentionally not mentioned the name of the individual selected, as the appointment was supposed to not be technically effective until tonight, but I see obviously from the agenda. I don't know this person on a personal level, no ill will towards them personally. Nor do I have a stake in the camp of the other two individuals that were in. So just want to be clear on that. I contacted board members individually in the spirit of transparency for why, so I want to paraphrase some of the responses that I received. That selected individual provided a logical explanation for why they did not run during July and August when petitions were due. But they had previously applied when the board vacancy was Don Dennett's seat was open, though he was not selected. Again, so that should be here or there if they like the slate clean. Second, I also heard the phrase board cohesiveness, and I understand that you guys need to work together. But from the outside looking in, that can also sound less like unity and more like selecting somebody who aligns with the existing way of thinking. And third, the same board, this is kind of a quote here, the same board group who supported Jake's appointment is now recommending a candidate they believe has the strongest qualifications, over 30 years in education and a Miami alone, and someone who will positively move the district forward. This, to me, this does not fit right. So who is this board group that previously had already contacted you guys and you took that opinion going into that night because we now know a decision was made that night. So I don't know if that's a union. Teachers were back in Jake. We got the most votes. So to me, that's very, very concerning. I had a strong feeling this outcome was coming, and which is why I spoke up at the November board meeting. I refuse to be cryptic. And I'm not going to sit behind the keyboard and complain after the fact, but we already know it's too late now. Maybe this decision would feel different if it were coming directly off the field as well as the election.
But it's hard not to see that the public vote was good enough to get each of you guys a seat on the board and not the next two people that have been staying on or the next amount of votes. When I am teaching my kids that every vote matters, this is a really hard pill to swallow. So, in my personal opinion, and no, I don't have 20 years in education, I'm not an alumni, the community choice would have been a better option to respect how the community votes. If I've paraphrased anything incorrectly or you have additional insight to share, I know you cannot speak up now, but I look forward to hearing your comments during the board comments of the meeting because you will not get a better point.
William Horn.
My name is William Penn and I'm a fourth grader at Miami. I checked out the books I had made from the library at Miami. I showed my mom and told her I should not be reading it because of the bad words in it. If these symbols mean nothing, then why are they in the book? If they do not mean anything bad, then why can't younger kids read it? If I put this symbol down for one of my paragraphs at school, I get in trouble for it.
Thank you.
Not because my name appeared on a ballot or on social media or because any rumors that may have circulated. I'm speaking as a parent and district member. We may never know the full reason behind the decision not to appoint me to the school board seat, but I would like to make a few things clear from my perspective. On Monday, August 4th, I was told that only 2 applicants had submitted to the Miami School Board and someone strongly encouraged me to run. A few hours later, my 3 kids and I went to the Miami County Board of Elections, gathered the necessary paperwork. In less than 24 hours, I reached out to our community, gathered over 40 signatures, completed the application, and returned it. When I handed it back to the woman working, she said, I wasn't sure if you understood yesterday what all you had to do by today. I smiled and replied, I like it. I did this all while my husband was out of state working on a 2-week trip. And I say that because I felt so strongly to serve our children and I was willing to figure it out. Over the next 3 months, we ran a full campaign using personal funds for signs, attending meetings, and hosting events. My wonderful campaign manager even organized a tailgate because I wanted a way to connect with families who had older children and that I just didn't know in our district. During this time, roughly 94 people from our district reached out to me through text, email, and coffee meetings. These included parents, 16 teachers and staff members, and also individuals from neighboring communities not in that number. Among these were State Representative Jonathan Newman and school board members from the communities of Pitt City, Troy, Vandalia, Anna, and New Knoxville. My campaign focus was simple: be authentic, listen, and understand what our community wants. The fact that such a wide and diverse group of people reached out to someone not currently serving on the board just spoke volumes. The school board should reflect what the people want for our district. You may say these things are your meetings, but these are our children and this is our district. We have all heard the terms tradition, community, and pride used to describe Miami. Yet those have not been the overarching themes for the conversations and interactions I have had with many others inside our district. What have come out of this experience, which I am truly grateful for, are the connections I've made with people, the relationships that if I would have never run, I maybe would have never met. My prayer moving forward would be that the people in our district feel heard, will welcome fresh perspectives, policies will be openly evaluated, and we keep our children's experience at Miami East at the core of every decision. I have 3 sons in this district, and 7 to 8 sons are dyslexic and have auditory processing disorders and ADHD. Their struggle is not intelligence, it's access. When my oldest son was in elementary school, I requested an IEP evaluation many times. No action was ever taken until it was multiple meetings. The principal called me the very next day to ask if my doctor had written an email for me, and told me my son was on a waiting list. My doctor did not write it, and under federal law, there is no waiting list. During 2020, the district chief of our district was in an IEP meeting with the chief where we provided those homeschoolers subpar to what she provides. Just 3 months later, residents returned to school and were displaced on speech and language therapy by her. Last year, after an audiologist requested speech and language evaluation, I was told by the district evaluator that my son did not meet services, even though he scored extremely low in this area. A recent private 4-hour evaluation confirmed that absolutely was not true. Particularly needed language therapy because dyslexia is an issue. In 3rd grade, I was called to a meeting for behavioral issues. I walked on to the meeting on time. I waited 20 minutes and I was told that I failed to show up. The behavioral concern was not him getting started on work. It was him not getting started on his work. He has documented processing speed and working memory deficits. He likely did not understand the material and couldn't read it. That is not a behavior, it's a disability. I was asked to take my son to the eye doctor. I did. I paid for vision therapy, $90 a week for 6 months. I never noticed improvement, which makes sense because it wasn't his vision that needed help. In 5th grade, my son regularly had hours of homework per night. In 6th grade, he received a missing assignment for a large project he could not read independently. When I asked if it was reviewed for a study, he was told no because he had a reason to do it. Dyslexic children do not become non-dyslexic over the weekend, just FYI. The Wyatt Forest test shows clear indicators of dyslexia. Yet I was never told this, and neither child received dyslexia-specific instruction by a trained professional. I want to know why the school psychologist was known this. I'm sorry. Since 1st grade, that my children are dyslexic. Yet this was never spoken about. The delay allowed academic gaps. This year, they were placed in an intervention period because they both scored poorly in state testing. As a result, my 13-year-old gym and health class was taken from him for the entire year. My children are entitled to a free, appropriate public education. What they received is not appropriate and little progress has been made. They have been on IEP since 3 years old and 7. I requested one-on-one evidence-based instruction, such as Orton Dillingham, and I was denied. 1 in 5 are dyslexic. You would never deny a ramp to a child in a wheelchair, but you sure do deny children with heavy disabilities to correct instruction. My sons are 13 and 15 years old, who being years behind their peers. My 13-year-old reads at a 1st grade level. I want to talk to you. This is unacceptable. I'm asking my leaders to support your teachers. Stop denying children access to their education and do better, because the cost of not doing so is lifelong. 1 in 5 are begging their teachers.
Am I allowed to speak? I know that I think you guys know I'm not really new at this point. I know I shouldn't be up here speaking, but I'm going to because of how passionate I am, and the truth is the truth. And the truth is that my children are the same as her children, and she's the same as I was, and I'm seeing her crying listening to her speak because I know how much this hurts. I know how much it hurts to know that if something happens to you, your 15, 13-year-old son isn't going to make it in life because they can't read. And in the school, I don't know if you guys know, but you make us feel like failures as parents. The verbal things, the things that are said by teaching staff, this not just to the parents, to the students, the things that are, as we've gone through twice this month, within the last 2 weeks, the things that are said in front of students in a classroom. This is twice now to my family about not just me, or not just my children, but me. Now they're talking, now teachers are talking about me and the student and my children, I'm sorry, in front of other students, and they're reporting that back to me. Like the level of unprofessional, and like we said, we are a history of excellence, and you know, I have multiple generations of family here, and it breaks my heart to see this happening to the district. I left the district with my younger child because I can't bear to even walk in the doors and get the eye rolls and get the, like, I'm the bad guy for advocating for my child that couldn't read and write. And I feel like because of my advocacy, he can now read and write. So at least there's that. Can he do it great? No. But can he live without me? Yeah. So I at least have that. I just want to let you guys know that this is unacceptable. Again. Janet Stevens, resident of Miami East Education Association, I'm a teacher here in the district. Kind of on a whole nother note from what everybody else is speaking about this evening, it is School Board Appreciation Month. It is noted and celebrated across the country. And so on behalf of the Miami East Education Association, we just wanted to say thank you to all of you for your service to the district. We appreciate the time, the effort, the learning, the study, and everything that you attempt to put in. None of us are perfect, but we appreciate all of the attempts that you guys make. And so just on behalf of Miami Education Association, thank you for what you do. I do have some tokens of appreciation to pass out to you, but I'll wait and do that at the end. So since we're videotaping and all of that, but we are very grateful to all of you for your service. And thank you.
The next item that's on the agenda is appointment for board members and events with unexpired term. As has been discussed earlier, so the board vacancy actually started the first vacancy started last year. John Bennett moved out of the district, he resigned last January. Per our policy of 0145, it stated that the term would be filled for either the shorter of the two, the remainder of that year, or the remainder of the term, or until the next election happens. So that's what Mr. Silverstone was appointed last year for this remaining portion of that year. And then it went on the ballot for this year. It was 0 candidates apply for that 2-year remaining term. So based on that, same thing with policy 0145, to fill a vacancy. It has 3 items on there. The board shall seek qualified and interested candidates from the community for the new word of mouth and contact with appropriate organizations. All applicants are to submit a notice of their interest in writing to the treasurer, and then the board shall interview all interested candidates to ascertain their qualifications. So that is what has happened previously, and then the board is going to vote on filling that vacancy this week.
Do I have a motion and a second to appoint John Barrera for the balance of the board member term set to expire December 31st, 2027? Based upon the resignation of John Bennett, which no petitions were filed through the November 2025 election. Discussion? Any discussion? I've got a few things I would like to, add. Include the surgery tab here, versus FDM. Selection and consideration for, John, was taken in this position, was taken very carefully. From an applicant standpoint, John does have, Mr. Barrera has 32 years of educational experience from a variety of districts. Most of his time has been spent at Brookville as a high school math teacher, but he's also worked at Bethel and most recently at Yellow Springs, where he is currently teaching Python coding at the high school level. John, fully understands that the needs of students is rapidly changing. That's things learned, Python coding in order to teach Python coding at Yellow Springs. He has held various coaching positions throughout his career. He has 3 children, and one is an active 8th grade student here at Miami East. I would like to state a few things around this recommendation. The board's role was to look at the most qualified candidates. In my opinion, we have done that. The constituents of the district have entrusted us to make the best decision on their behalf for this district. Much of this board went through this process in January 2025 when Jake was brought in. I think Ronnie mentioned that there was a core unit. That core unit I spoke to was myself, that was Les Pender, that was Cam Rice. That's the only 3 people that were part of that core they were part of that decision. It was no other hidden agenda, hidden group, as part of, that selection from January. And I'll just say, with that selection, I think we did darn well, seeing that James received the highest number of votes in the entire district. So people can say what they want to say, about decisions that we made, but folks have, believed, that was a good decision for the district because, obviously Jake has, he's here tonight. On December 15th, when we went into our session, we met with all 5 applicants and reviewed them equally, honest to goodness, equally. We came out with a recommendation of the best candidate and informed each candidate the next day. That was done by the treasurer. Going into the interviews, we knew and shared with the candidates that the votes had to wait until 2026, when we had the vacancy. It was not something we could do that night. All of this is within policy 200145, and any narrative that anyone speaks coming out of an executive session with a recommendation was a violation of the Sunshine Law is just flat out false. That similar process was followed for the interview and recommendation of our treasurer, of our superintendent, and as I mentioned, in January 2025. In the November election, five candidates competed actually for 3 seats. Nobody applied to that 2-year term. And it, as I think Alicia mentioned, it was public knowledge in terms of you could go to the Board of Election site, anyone could, to see who had applied for, said positions. And I'm with Alicia that on that day, I think I was personally the last one to apply for the 4-year term. There were only 2 names on that 4-year term. There was nobody on that 2-year term. But that is something that is, publicly available to anyone who goes out to the Board of Elections. The voters' votes count a million percent. Again, any narrative that stated that anyone on this board doesn't believe that votes don't count, we can agree to disagree. That's just, that's gonna have to roll. And again, I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I feel that we have recommended the most qualified candidate. Anyone else want to say anything? Roll call, please.
Steve Everson? Yes. Dan Ryan?
Yeah.
Jeff Kendrick?
Yes.
Amanda Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Guerrero? Please come forward. Solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the rights and interests of the state of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Washington School District, Miami County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect, and hereafter be enacted during the continuance of said office and until your successor is elected and qualified. If so, say I will. I will say that after
Okay. Yeah, very good. All right. Moving to the superintendent's informational report.
All right, so let's start off with the SFA Member of the Month. This month for January, the Member of the Month is Evan Maxon. Evan is a junior, third-year member of our chapter, and his parents are Tom and Lisa Maxon in Gastown. Evan was the top fruit salesperson for the SFA Fruit Sales Fundraiser. He sold over $2,600 worth of fruit. He also participated in the district food science competition, helped his program of activities committee gather materials for the Miami High School Self-Help Week, and competed in the state Ag Biotechnology Career Development Event online exam. His supervised agricultural experience consists of job placement on a local farm and providing hay and straw baling services. We want to congratulate Evan and his family for this accomplishment for the month. Next item on superintendent report, I want to talk about the calendar survey results. So every 2 years, we create a calendar for the next 2 years. Sent a survey result or survey out there during break, and this one we had 705 results. We had probably 400, almost 500 results within about 3 hours of sending that out. So we had a lot of feedback. Probably the most feedback in any of the surveys I've ever sent out since I've been here. The responses came in pretty quick. So I wanted to share where a lot of that was. So top choices, people put their top choices for a 2-week Christmas break. The second one was finished school before Memorial Day, a week, full spring break, and then the extended weekend for spring break was 4. And then the last was less than a 2-week Christmas break. So the way our contracts talk, both union presidents and myself will get together and we will design the calendar. We will work on that and have a calendar present for the February meeting based on these results. There's been some questions and a little bit of misconception that since the fair is pushed back a week next year, that we're going to be starting in the middle of the fair. That won't be the case. We'll do the same thing that we have been doing now. We will be starting after the fair. The fair is pushed back a week, and so is Memorial Day is pushed back a week. Ms. Stevens and myself and our classified union president, we will be working on putting that calendar together for the next 2 years. So based on that, just looking at numbers, it is pretty difficult to do the full top 3. We will do our best to design that calendar, but to have a full 2-week Christmas break finished before Memorial Day and the full week of spring break, just with other things that are contractual, it's pretty difficult to do. So just putting that out there, we'll get as many of them in there as we can, and we'll hope to present that in February meeting. I have one other item that I did not add. I guess I should have said I had an amendment on there. Just something I wanted to discuss about or discuss with. Well, let me just do the recording first. So item C on there. As you see tonight, Mr. Tyre, our tech director, is here with us. We are trying to record tonight's meeting through a Zoom link, and then what's displayed on the screen should be what's being seen through that Zoom. A couple of the things that are a little difficult for this. Sound is obviously something that is not easy in this room. We set up 2 microphones to try to help get some sound through the speakers. It's not a true microphone system. So what we're going to be doing is we're recording the meetings tonight. Both of them are set for recording. That's why we had a pause in between the meetings. And then Mr. Tyre has created the Miami East Board of Education YouTube channel that we will be posting these meetings recordings to, and then we will be sharing those out. So once we get these meetings loaded into there, you'll see an announcement from me that those meetings are now live. Here's the link for where you can, or not live. The recordings are uploaded, and you'll find that link of where to find them. It'll also be posted on our Board of Education page on our district website, where you can find the agendas and information. So we will get these recordings flipped over to YouTube as soon as we can and get those shared out. Again, since this is our first time, I've talked to several people that, you go to different places, you have multiple cameras, you might have multiple microphones. So this is an experiment to begin with. It might not be that everyone is recording the exact same way, because the audio is going to be a little bit tricky to find and a little tricky to pick up. But this is our first attempt, and then again, appreciate the entire team here with us to help us with this, and then we will get these out as soon as we can. Okay. The next item that I did not add on there and I didn't have on the agenda, I apologize for that. I wanted to talk a little bit about where we still are with the strategic planning process. I met with, Andy Monin from DTP over the break. They are working on, they're the company that did our newsletter that we mailed out. They're working on putting together a digital strategic plan that I can share out easily to social media and to our website. They've taken the presentation we had at our last board meeting and they're working on making that a little bit fancier than what we designed and a little bit easier to use and from a mobile phone versus what we had. We also walked around multiple areas, actually every building in the district to look at where we can do branding and signage. We are working on getting a proposal together for that. And then this week, we talked about the facilities piece of it, that we'll do a feasibility assessment for the board office, the board building. We have the initial meeting this week. So after we meet with Norman Miller this week, we'll be able to figure out what those next steps are and what that entails. But as I said previously, just based off of our conversations, what they did at Marion Local, it will have a lot of community impact and community involvement with those decisions to help us make the best financial decisions moving forward. So I did not add that to the agenda, but one did not get in that. That would be all in the discussion.
No, just gonna say thank you, for pulling together, the activities around the reporting. I know it was, it's been a bit, to get things in place and it is iterative and, you know, certainly to all of those in the community that have expressed concerns around the reporting. You know, we are glad to have this in place. We're also trying to make, if you're in here, the experience better by showing you what works as we're going through the meeting itself to make it an enhanced experience for everybody. So just bear with us, as we, you know, continue to refine that. Thank you. Treasurer's consent agenda.
So. So thanks to the treasurer's consent agenda, I have a few items to recommend for approval. First, we have the approval of the December 15th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes as presented and recommended approval of the January 2026 financial calendar.
Got your motion? Second?
So, I don't think we've ever actually pulled one of the board financial packets up in a board meeting before. So like you said, trying to enhance the experience for everyone. So typically the items that I go through with my financial report is a financial summary of all funds. So as of December 31st, 2025, fiscal year total revenues were $10,594,690, which is slightly down from 1 year ago. Total expenditures from all funds were $11,916,000 compared to $11,970,000  1 year ago. That's 47.5% of our estimated revenue and 54.2% of our total expenditures, and that's from all of them. Looking just at the general fund, as of December 31st, our fiscal year total revenues were $9,124,000, which is just slightly down from 1 year ago, about $60,000. And then our total general fund expenditures were $9,802,000, which is up about $700,000 from 1 year ago. Again, some of those things have to do with timing, just our different year situation. But then looking at going down to that last portion of the summary page, is the spending filling summary, which comes directly from our 5-year forecast. So through December 31st, our actual total revenues and other financial sources, which is line 2.080, were short of fiscal year state estimates by $254,000. Again, a lot of that comes from our first real estate assessment. And then our 5.850 are under our fiscal year state estimate by 180,000. So we're seeing a $50,000 difference there. One of the things that I wanted to mention was just about some of the house bills that we kind of discussed over the last several months. With that House Bill 186, I think Mr. Hughes mentioned this last meeting, but that was approved by the governor. We started to receive some additional clarification on what impacts that will have to the 5-year forecast or our financial plan. The big implication that's going to happen is that they do not think that there's likely not enough time to make adjustments on everyone's tax bills for the second half of their payments. And so, or I guess for the first payments that they made for tax year 2025, which is collected in 26. What that means is that we're going to likely see a majority of the increase that we had previously planned for with our real estate settlement in this fiscal year. But then what's going to happen is that when the second half payments are made, they're going to make adjustments to residents of the district for people paying their taxes. And so that second settlement, which will actually be in our next fiscal year, will likely be significantly lower. And so we probably will see a large increase this year and then a drastic correction next year. So as we start to get some additional information on that, we will definitely keep the board informed. We're actually going through some of the simulations in the planning group or in the planning for our February 5-year forecast. So next month you will expect to have that forecast in front of you. What we're planning on doing is mostly just updating the revenue side of things, not updating that expenditure side at this time. And then we are going to do another update this fiscal year in May. So we'll end up doing 3 this fiscal year. With the first one in September, we'll do another one in February, and then although it's not required in May, we'll have a 35-year forecast. So we may end up doing 3 a year, we may end up doing 4 a year, but I think it's going to be good, especially as we're getting more information on the impact of housing.
The reduction comes from our foundation funding already, so we're
Yeah, so the state required all teachers to be assigned to reading training, which I think is honestly fantastic, that's going on. When that came out, when our legislators passed that, they said the schools would give certain stipends based on what requirements teachers had, and then the state was going to reimburse the schools for those costs. What we got came out recently was that the state overspent and didn't budget enough for that. So instead of getting a full reimbursement, we were going to get about 93%, which was taking away from our next foundation payment. So when we were looking at setting the general fund, and we were off about $60,000 from last year. You know, if we talk about $40,000 coming off of that as well. You know, there's some small things that happen too, but I know that's something that we normally don't talk about, that the state said, here's this money, no, now we don't have it, let's take it away from our payment. So not a drastic dollar amount, but it is something that I think is worth noting. I'm trying to think if there's anything else within the financial plan or in the financial packet that I typically go over. I don't think there's much. About halfway down the document that I actually, or the page that I have pulled up now, this is what the old spending money like it used to be. I know I like to summarize it for you guys and just give you a kind of overview, but this is directly tied to the 5-year forecast. So when there's some of those variances, always feel free to look at that. If you have any specific questions for any line item, I'm happy to address those. And then the last part that I was going to mention, is this ending tax benefits. It's on the first page of those charts that I give you guys, and what you'll kind of see is around, I can't see that, but around like the December, January, February timeframe is where we start to hit the lower points of our tax balance on hand. And some of that just has to do with when we're getting the property tax settlements, our income tax settlements, different things like that. So we had our last, we were processing payroll for the night, and I was talking with Carrie, and I'm like, hey, like, when are we getting some more money? But, we still have some of the funds high and with registry investment, but some of those are, essentially expire with this fiscal year. So I have a meeting scheduled with them next week to just see how we're going to handle the next interim review. We may do something not to be, we may not want to tie up those funds up to a 5-year period or a 4-year period that we may have done in the past. But I'll make sure to give you guys a little bit of an overview of how that investment looks. Any questions on the financial packet?
They went out and stepped through the 5-year plan that constantly was extremely informative. I know, when many of you participated in the strategic planning committee, saw the 5-year plan. There's a lot of data that comes in layman's terms that folks can really understand what that means to them, to their families. And so, I'm glad when we're presenting it up here so people can, see the data. But even more importantly, hear Alex, translations, because if you're not a treasurer of a school district and you just look at these forms, it's tough to interpret on your own. So thank you, Alex. If there are other questions or discussions, then roll call, please.
Yeah, right, yeah, we covered those, yes. John Ferreira?
Yeah.
Les Kendrick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion passed. Next to the treasurer's report, we actually have 2 items to recommend for approval. The second is not the agenda that was, available for you all to look at. So the first item I have, recommended approval of grants and donations. We received a $400 donation from Cutting Edge LLC for the food service fund, a $1,000 donation from Coast Church Food Service Fund, an $80 anonymous donation to the Athletic Fund, a $250 donation from Scott and Dave Hollis to the Miami Boys Basketball Fund, in memory of Marcel, and $200 donation from Deborah Bell to the Miami Boys Basketball Program, in memory of Marcel. We also received a $198 grant from the Ohio FFA Foundation to the FFA Student Activity Account, to a $2,500 donation from Sydney Electric to the Community Machine Student Activity Fund, a $2,500 donation from Sydney Electric to the Drama Club / Performing Arts Activity Account, and a $5,000 donation from Sydney Electric. A $2,500 donation to the Band Activity Fund, a $5,000 donation, that's the one for the Drama Club / Performing Arts Activity Fund, and a $1,200 donation from Farm Credit Services to the FFA Street.
Do you have a motion?
Yeah.
I think I did everyone, but, I just wanna continue to thank those organizations and individuals that support ongoing operations within the district. Our director of operations, who's in charge of food services, and I have been, talking about the student lunch balances, and actually at the end of the calendar year, we had negative $5,800 in student outstanding lunch balances. Even though it's like every month I'm recommending, or, bringing donations for the food service fund, those donations are now total $3,300 right now. And the way that we handled that previously and how we'll continue to is, at certain times we'll wipe out the balances, but we do not individually hit who benefits from that. We try to take out all the names and just start, wiping those away, rather than picking individuals. And so that becomes hard at times when we have $5,800 in outstanding balances and only $3,300 available to support those. He's been working incredibly hard on clearing communication out. We've been discussing how we can improve that a little bit. I think when parents constantly get notifications, they may not pick them up as usually. But I think with that, I just very grateful for, the churches and organizations out there supporting that and being able to help students that, they want to benefit from greater lifestyle and so forth. Wes Kinder?
Yep.
John Rivera?
Yep.
Lee Cutterton? Yes. Ken Wright? Anna Howell? Yeah. Motion passed. The next item is approval of supplemental rate certificate. It's a document that we received from the Miami County Auditor's Office that again they want signed and returned by January 31st. It is just authorizing the reduction of the bond retirement. So on the sheet, which I will have everyone sign following approval after the meeting, it will show the bond that expires in 2038 as receiving less collection. That's really all the explanation like that. We discussed it previously, but I'm told we need to vote on it. Everything, but
Anybody, any questions? Roll call.
Wes Kinder?
Yeah.
Ken Wright? Yes. John Rivera?
Yeah.
Lee Cutterton? Yes. Anna Howell? Yes. Motion passed.
All right, moving to the personnel consent agenda.
All right, so for the personnel consent procedure, we have 5 items for consideration. We have our classified and certified substitutes for the month. Resignation from Amy Hall, our high school secretary, effective last Friday. Letter of retirement for Janet Jump, high school librarian, and then approval of government contracts.
You have anything?
Second. So a couple of discussions with that. I want to, 2 things. First, I want to start with Ms. Young. With her letter of retirement, I might say resignation, her letter of retirement, she has been with the district in some capacity for 45 years. She started with a student with us in kindergarten and went through her school, and then she's been teaching for 32.3 years with us. So I want to congratulate her on her retirement. That will be effective May 31st. It will be at the end of the year, which will go through the remainder of the year. But I want to congratulate her on that. It's it's a great achievement. I know that she will be missed in our school and community. Now, she did tell me again today that she plans on being on the sub list next year at some point. But I said, I've heard that before, where people have said that, they retired and then decided they liked what they were doing. But, Ms. Dump, we really appreciate that for service. And then Ms. Hall, we don't always have mid-year, resignations, but Ms. Hall, if you know anything about the high school, she keeps things moving. Ms. Hall is a very integral part of our school. She still is going to be volunteering with, high school cheer, so you'll still see her around at times, but, she was offered a different opportunity that was better for her and her family, and, we wish her the best of luck with that.
How many years has she been here for this?
I think it's 9, but that's in my head. I think that's right. Yeah. And then other than that, like I said earlier, we have some supplementals to John Club, a musical. Musical, I think this year is going to Grease. That will be coming out, which would be a good time. Our kids always do a fantastic job with that. Look forward to seeing that.
Any other questions? Roll
John Ferreira? No. Les Pickett? No. Chris Everson? Yes. Kim Aaron's son? Amber Hall? Yes. What is that? We do not have any old business this evening. We have a couple of new business items and new business items. So I want to start here in just a minute with new business item A. It's listed as Academy Library Book and Field Review. So just kind of want to give a little bit of background for that. So, as mentioned so very well, I give you a lot of credit. Sometimes I get very nervous myself for speaking in these meetings, and I like you did a fantastic job. So very proud of you for that. Okay. So what he was speaking about is there's a book, Head to Me, that's in our elementary library, grade 4 and above. That Ms. Penn brought to our attention that she was wanting to be removed from the library. So based on that, on policy 9130, we filed that would be reconsidered and removed. Mr. Rohr established a committee for the policy. The committee, based on that policy, is one or more professional staff members, one or more board members, and a lay person eligible in the area. So the committee was made up of our elementary librarian, librarians for the public library in this house, or the board rep. The committee was asked to do 4 things. They were asked to evaluate the appropriateness of the material for the age and maturity level of students with whom it's being used, the accuracy of material, the objectivity of the material, and the use being made of the material. Policy 9130 as well, the committee, or per the policy, the committee read the book, they reviewed the request and the criteria, and they determined that the book should remain in the elementary library where it is for grades 4 and above. Once the committee gave me their recommendation, I put that recommendation into a letter to give Ms. Penn and made her aware of what her appeal rights are if she did not like or agree with that decision. And Ms. Penn has agreed or has decided she would like to appeal that. Per policy, that appeal goes to the board in a public session, so that is what we are doing here this evening for that. We had a couple of things with it. So the policy states that at this point, no challenge material will be removed or curriculum from the collection of resources and materials except by asking the board. And no challenge materials may be removed solely because it presents ideas that may be unpopular or offensive to some. Any board action to remove material will be accompanied by the board statement and the reason for the removal. So just for the board to be aware as well, you'll notice new business items A and B. Here in just a minute, Ms. Penn is going to present her appeal. This will be the time for the board to be able to ask questions, the board to be able to discuss. And then since the board needs to make a decision on what's going to go on with that book within 10 days, that discussion will go on here. And then you'll see item B is for somebody to make a motion. And there's a parentheses on how that motion could be to uphold the committee's decision or overturn the committee's decision based off of this appeal. So that's what we're getting ready for. Ms. Penn, are you ready?
To the board members of IME, I am writing to appeal the committee's decision regarding the book Heaven View and the Miami East Elementary Library. At the beginning of this book, an explicit language warning by the author clearly states Ted Williams was known for using salty language. When you see the occasional, and it has a symbol in there, that is Ted cursing. This symbol is used 26 times in this book, and all are curse words. I have included the book with page tabs to show where and how these words are used. And Mr. Keith has that up there. The Miami East mission statement is as follows. At Miami East Elementary School, it is our mission to provide a safe, nurturing environment where students are empowered to be independent problem solvers with a growth mindset necessary to positively impact the community and the world. After performing a search of the scientific literature regarding cursing and children or child development, there are no positive, nurturing, or safe effects of children being exposed to cursing. The 7 articles I found, for which I included with Mr. Keith's packet, state the following. Swearing is considered a negative behavior from both adults and children. In healthy and abused children, swearing can cause cardiac reactions. Number 3, unhealthy habits which were considered health risks, including swearing, worsen over time. Number 4, children who experience verbal aggression, including swearing at home, will often show aggression, delinquency, and interpersonal problems. Number 5, swearing obscene language demonstrates externalizing psychopathology in children. Number 6, swearing is considered a challenging behavior in schools. Number 7, parents are encouraged to be mindful of the level of media exposure their children have to music with use of swear words. As a collective group, these articles show exposure to cursing does not provide a safe, nurturing environment, nor does it help a child to positively impact the community and the world. Therefore, this book should be removed from the elementary library. The Viking way includes being respectful. Cursing at teachers or other students is disrespectful. I am told by staff that students do experience consequences for their cursing in the elementary school. The junior high student handbook clearly states use of inappropriate language on school property is a violation of the code of conduct. One quote on page 124 is disrespectful and alludes to violence, stating, so go get the president on the line or I'm going to, there's a symbol which I would assume to be shot your ass. This book models disrespect multiple times throughout the use of inappropriate language that is not permitted for elementary students to repeat while at school without consequences. The anti-Semitism presented to the elementary students in this book is another reason this book should be removed from the elementary library. Statements include inferior blood, he's a Jew, a dirty Jew, and kill the Jew are in this book with no clear explanation as to why these examples of hate speech are being yelled by the crowd. Anti-Semitism presented in this way is not an age-appropriate topic for elementary students. If multiple experts in the field of child psychology discourage exposure to swearing for children and consequences are given for cursing in the elementary school and junior high, then 9, 10, and 11-year-old children should not have access to this book. If a parent wants their elementary age child to read this book, they can obtain it from the public library. This book is better suited for an older audience. Parents, administrators, and the board need to work together to protect our children's innocence as long as we possibly can. The board should remove access to this book from the elementary students at Miami East by removing this book from the elementary library. Sincerely, Lindsay Ken.
I guess I'll start. So I read the whole book, around the research and author, he's a renowned author, he has a lot of positive feedback from everything that I saw, has good ratings. Also, just so we're transparent, at the beginning, and that, there was a note to read, but I'm trying to recall that. The note reader states, Ted Williams was known for using salty language. I wanted to bring to life to bring him to life, and I very want to put current words in the book. When you see the occasional asterisk tag, whatever it is, that's St. Kurt. If you're reading this book aloud, I suggest you replace the asterisk with "we" or "breathing." Please don't have the letter. So it basically states no curse. And then also very important. When he was, when the person was reading it, when they came to that, they said, "Why don't you know?" And people didn't swear that they said.
So if our kids, they want to be going to the teachers, that's really okay.
No.
Okay.
Let's keep it as
I don't know about your parents, that's gonna.
Anybody else have any feedback? I read the whole and learned quite a bit about, Full Harbor and Kendall as also. My grandson read it, he was a fourth grader, and he loved it. He read several of the other books in that same series, and he doesn't go around selling everything like this. Maybe he will, but it's in the book, that doesn't mean it's appropriate for him to say that. And then I talked to Mrs. New, try to get a feel of how the whole library thing works. And it's set up with color-coded dots, according to the interest level and reading level. And if a first grader tries to check out a book that has a dot that's third grade, they're not allowed. And I asked, if parent has ever asked her, we don't want our kids to check out these types of books. Is there a system for that? So that would happen. She said that it's never happened in the past, but if it did happen, they have the software that they use checking out books would alert the person checking that book out that the parent did not want them to check that type of book out. And so there is something in place if a parent makes that, recommendation or is concerned about that. But I mean, we all don't like the same types of books and, but you have even one.
Yeah, I surveyed other schools, I got a very close friend, the guy was trying to drop out of school. And I talked about it, he said, drop out of school, it's there, I checked the television, there, pickle is there. The book is in, about every two I check that, there's no chance of no, even 23. I can check the 23, and they have that book. And I'm thinking, if there's a Christian school, I can check the New Catholic, or check the Damon, and wait. So, I'm like you said, all the schools don't mean that kids have to, they tell the job, hey, the parents can disappear, but and that decision for that job, our parents, if they know, and you have to read the parents, and the state, they're saying, no, take that book back, or, so, Sam, grandchild, right, I mean, we do that kind of language there, and I think I was still granddaughter in the phone, I think. And, she does, we have all, things about that. So, I'm not gonna walk up with no English set them out, and then they go to freedom school. So, I feel that we need to, so, I like that, when I get in another school, like, kind of give me, that's there.
I'll just say, I was part of the committee that reviewed the book, and we were unanimous to say that for fourth grade and above, we felt it was appropriate for fourth graders and up. I read all 185 pages, and I would say there are 0 uses of upgrades, in the entire book, 0. The reference to anti-Semitism, I think it was taken out of context, because at that portion of the book, Ted and Stosh were at a rally where there were anti-Semitism, an anti-Semitism rally. They quickly realized, they were at a place that shouldn't be. It was taken from a moment in time. I think the book was from 1941, which is relevant to what was going on in the world in 1941. I don't think the book was trying to push any type of agenda towards anti-Semitism. I think as parents in the school, we all have the ability to check out what our kids are reading. Provide an opinion to your kids on if you like the book, not like the book. We need parents involved. But sitting on that, committee, if the American Library Association is saying that that book is appropriate for 8 and up, then I'm not going to say that no child at my any means is going to, read this book. That was my, assessment.
Well, I was able, I just found out about this just recently, and was able to talk to several librarians that I have interaction with, feel comfortable with, and they love school librarians, and they both felt that 4th through 6th grade, 4th on that, it was appropriate. Being a high school teacher, I don't have, the experience with 4th and 6th grade, as far as with a lot, but I do agree that the historical reference and keeping in context is important to keep in mind.
Any other discussion, comments? We have a recommendation or a motion to recommend upholding the committee's decision. Or to overturn it. Whoever motions, state that you're motioning to uphold or to overturn. Uphold. So that's up to that. You want
So based on your planning recommendation, is to uphold and keep it in full grade. So if you, at that time, if you say, hey, I don't want to be in 4th grade, I want to move it to this grade, then that would be your decision on when you vote, and that means you make that.
any other questions? Roll call?
Yes. Wait, Anderson, yes. John Barrera?
Yes.
Wes Kinder?
I'm afraid no, I want to move that.
Linda Elf? Yes. Walter Pat?
All right, moving to the board committee report. Did everyone attend any? I attended the athletic boosters meeting last week, and they are gearing up for the boosters auction, which is scheduled on March 21st at the Troy, I believe it's the Troy Eagles. I might be wrong, on that location. But I know it's set for March 21st. They're putting together committees, in preparation for that. That is the, anybody have anything else? All right, and to, board committee, or excuse me, board member comments. You want that?
Just want to thank you, Mr. Tyler, for working diligently to get this up and running, and I hope everyone understands that there is going to need to be improvements probably, and give it time, and we're going to go back so that it does. You did a great job. That's Mr.
like Eric said, it's hard to get up here and talk to some people, and as a fourth grader, you did a wonderful job. And I commend you for that, and I commend you for taking the book to your mother and father, knowing that it's not something that they would have wanted you to read. It was something that you did. Okay, so, yeah, sorry, but I commend you for that, that's awesome. I just want to say as far as, with Angela and Alyssa, I think Amanda pretty much stated the way that we did things. We've done that for when we hired, the superintendent, the treasurer, we make the recommendation at that, during the executive session, if we go in there, they come up with a recommendation, a consensus of something that we all have. We did not vote on it until tonight, so it was not, put into place until tonight. We did with all of the advantages. So, I would be glad to talk to anybody who wants to do, and I can say what I do, but I think she's pretty much put it in there, not down. As far as, Mrs. Wolf and Mrs. Lowry, you are right. Every child is entitled to have that free and appropriate education. When we hired a special ed director, I'm hoping that was enough to get us back on track. A lot of it started way back when. I know as a teacher, I recommended a lot of kids to be tested for different things. And I know the process. I didn't always like the process. I didn't always like the outcome. And I always encourage parents, keep fighting for your kids because you are their person. And, I think it makes me tear up for what your kids going through. I've been there, done that, so I know about that. And just every decision that I make, I don't take anything lightly. I research, I listen, I do everything I can, and I make the best decision that I think is for the kids. Am I always right? No. Is it always the decision you would have made? No. And I respect that. But in the end, I have to make a decision on what I believe, and that's it. Thank you.
Oh, me? Okay. First, I want to thank everyone for being tonight, speaking out. We don't know what's all happening in the district until we hear from our parents. We don't have kids, I don't have kids on the benches and school, but we hear what's actually going on. And do not believe that what you're saying is falling on deaf ears. You may not get the answer you want right away. But that's something I think the new board, the new people there, is going to try to change a little bit and work on. So give us a chance. And I want to thank you again for coming out and letting people updated on what's happening. Also want to thank our winter sports region, our team athletes and coaches for doing a great job. As usual, showing Viking pride and sportsmanship. Everybody attending Northwood on Saturday, which is really good sportsmanship. So, I want to welcome John here to my new board, bringing us a neutral and educational point of view. God bless you, thank you. Thanks again, Alex, for keeping us updated in our finances and making it understandable for us people to go through that every day. I think that's good. And I want to thank our community. You guys being here too, for all the wonderful support, to all of my needs and everything. And I want to thank the lady back there, the Material Park for the school. Thank you. And as Sam said, it takes a lot of deep thought, prayer to come up with the answers we do. And I know sometimes you thought what you want to do. So, we have to make sure we cover people in the district for that. So everybody, really tough decision. I know. It's very hard this week. There are a lot of things to think with. Thank you and God bless. I'm honored to have be on board. I hope the concerns Upon my selection, I began with impressed by being a good member of the board and that represented the community. I asked, communicate with me and our other board members, bring their issues when there's concerns and like Wes said, there's not always gonna be a good answer that we're happy with, but, I'm gonna listen and do what I can. Smith and Amanda, as a father of a daughter in the resource room, I understand. I go through it. I adopted my daughter, shortly after, her mom and I got married. And the stories that I heard, when she was removed from preschools and stuff because of her Down syndrome, it's heartbreaking. And I feel the pain, and I understand that. So know that what you're saying, brings out, I understand, don't feel that you're not going on that. But I am honored. My niece is a great school district, and it will continue to be, and my goal is not just to keep it at the same level, but to help build it even better.
I want to start off congratulating Evan Maxson on his accomplishment of Student of the Month for FFA. It's a great accomplishment. He's very busy with the FFA organization. And then also Eric for reaching out about the calendar survey and giving involvement in the community, and also taking into account the conversations we had about, and also the school, fair, getting into that, obviously, that, so thank you. And then I'm performing with and actually doing that in public, and that would be management, but thank you. Alex, thank you for, putting aside with here and kind of showing how to, as you speak about them. And also, send me the financial service that I understood there. Speaking to Mrs. Penn, my decision wasn't based on what was best for me, it was based on what was best for the overall experience of my needs. So I have to be unbiased on my decisions. So sometimes hard to do it, but what I feel, so I made my decision. Speaking to Mr. Valley, I do have a daughter who's in the school, teaching assistant for IEP with my needs. She's younger, so I'm gonna have to go through the treatment, but I think so. I've heard some experience and talk about that and the things for coming through, what she's been dealing with, and don't be afraid to reach out to her or.
Thank you for that. I want to make it clear, I'm not a teacher, I know that could have sounded like that. That was just my experience, and it's been like that year after year after year, and I have been turning down anything, listening honestly, anything that I had asked for in the review was turned down every single time. I was never anything on this. I want that to be clear. I know those numbers have it. Thank you.
And then also the selection for, the board member, I know I didn't reply to you on you, we just have to, just have, once you were appointed to the West Public Knowledge at that point. I can speak for myself. I know with the vote, there was historical high amount of movement for a school district to have with what's many people running. So that can be viewed either way, but I also took that into account when I made the decision, and then also, the way people interview the questions as well, or did not answer questions, also played into my decision. That's how I made my decision, right? So that the interview, the other mode, and we go back to the universal school. Mrs. Stevens, thank you. Appreciate the positivity. Always help in this position. So thank you. And then the decision on the book, and I said, I read the book, I also reached out to, Mrs. Lee and discussed it with her, and, heard from the people whose job it was to look at those, job, their job is the librarian to look at those books. I asked her recommendations and everything, and we talked about it, and I'm in no position to say I know more than she does when it comes to library books, so, okay.
I think we've covered a majority of the, topics. I do want to thank everyone for coming out, tonight, and for every person that took courage to speak tonight. It's not easy. I mean, we all are up here and we're nervous and, you don't want to trip over yourself and, it's difficult, but there's, each of you spoke to very personal things. And now with recordings, that story is out there, across the board. For Alicia and Angela, I know both of you are, and understandably, and many in this room, not pleased, with where this, ended.
My decision, my concern has nothing to do with this. I don't know if that is also has something to
And
the
thank
board.
you. I mean, that's where I was
Mine
going.
is also a level procedure.
Understood. I think we've got to find a common way, to grow that trust again, and work with each other, going forward. We,
Right, that's what we're at.
yeah, collectively. But I think we all have to be professional with each other, give each other, grace, ask, questions. And I know we're actively, doing that, but, I just want to say, thank you, to both of you, truthfully. Thank you to both of you. I can bring that. Quickly, everybody.
You will break it for us, and you said, oh, do the right thing. Doing the right thing, right thing, we can do the right thing. So that's what we make a good call.
But following the law, I think we're in our application, unless that's it.
To be very clear, every one of us follow the law. So it can be an interpretation. We have confirmed with attorneys that we completely follow the law. So to be very clear, that's an inaccurate statement. Do we have a motion to adjourn today? Wait a second.